Hi everybody and welcome back to the painting channel. Today it's a cat's eye in coloured pencils. So let's roll that intro and let's get straight into the video. Hi everybody, welcome back. And before I get into the video, as always, let me just say a big thank you to all my subscribers, both new and old. Thanks very much for all the support you give the channel. And don't forget, whilst you are watching this, if you're not a subscriber and you like the content that you're watching, then please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me out immensely. And at the same time, click the bell icon and click the likes as well. And also add comments. That's great. And if you've got friends who watch videos and would like to learn some more and they don't know about me, then maybe give it a share to them too and let them enjoy the content. And if you want more, don't forget, always there is a Monday night live stream that's 7 o'clock London time every Monday evening. And there is also my Patreon, which is growing steadily, and I look forward to people coming over there, having a look. And if there's a tier there that really interests you, then get involved. And all the money that you put into the Patreon to help me creates and supports me to do more content like this and more videos for Patreon as well, of course. So take a look, and if you want to get involved, you'd be so welcome. So in the meantime, a cat's eye in color pencil. Now I did this as a Patreon special stream over 2 weeks for my patrons, of course, and I felt that it would be nice to do a speed up version for you to enjoy on YouTube. Now the original is a blow by blow stream, and it was 4 hours of streaming over 2 weeks. So if you want to become a patron and see the full Monty, as it were, that's the place to see it. But in the meantime, get involved, have a look at this. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something from it to move on with your own color pencil artwork, and that'll be great. So in the meantime, let's get straight into it. Let's see what happens. Catch you all very soon. Bye bye for now. Bye bye. Okay everybody, so today's exercise, apart from obviously being in coloured pencil, is all about a cat's eye. I chose to do this on Clairefontaine pastel mat. I love this surface. I also love the watercolour papers that you can get, but this happens to be a really good surface to work on, and it takes so many layers of coloured pencil, so it's a delight. Now then, cat's eye. Well, this cat's eye is a cat that belongs to my wife and myself, and it's one of two that we've got, brother and sister, and this is the little female called Misty. She's quite a grey tabby, and unlike her brother, who's a very strong tabby, but she's a beautifully marked cat, that's got to be said. Now I chose a very warm, very light grey just to get the initial sketch down. I hadn't done any pre-sketching. I just literally went straight in with a colour pencil as if it were just a normal graphite pencil, and I was doing a normal sketch, and I think that's quite a nice way of doing it. You'll see me bounce around with lots and lots of different colours. Now all the colours I used throughout this video will be or have been listed underneath, and all the details underneath this video, so you can see the ones that I chose to use. But they were a whole variety of browns and warms, burgundies and pinks, along with some blues and predominantly greys, blacks. But one of the favourite ones I really love are the deep indigo colour, and that really does help out quite a bit. And you'll see it used quite a lot in this all throughout this video. So having decided that the drawing was about where I wanted it to be, I started going in with a few initial blocking colours, and I'm overlaying greens over browns or cooler greens over warmer browns just to start to get the feel for the eye itself. Now the eye in the centre, I used a very pale yellow, and the lovely thing about irises is that they're so full of patterns, little light plays with colours. It's an amazing thing to see these, and you try and pick your wits when you're doing colour pencil with doing so many of these little subtle changes in colour and drawing and shape and light. And honestly, it's it's crazy how you get so involved. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. The drawing itself is taking care of itself, and you can see the progress I'm making. One thing I will say about the hair or the fur on the cat is that you've got a whole series of greys from light through to dark, and they create shadow areas and light areas, as well as the distinctive patterns in the cat's fur itself. And you have to make the distinctions when you're doing a pencil drawing with any fur or any animal, whether it's a small cat or whether it's a big tiger, of noting what areas are shaded and what areas are not shaded, the lights and the darks, as well as those areas that are denoted through pattern. And you get areas where you see darks on top, as well as the light versions of those darks. I don't want to get this too complicated, but you start to see that. But you also have areas where there's predominantly light fur, but you get quite a bit of dark underneath too. So you're trying to play all those strokes that you make with all the different colors that you choose to create the fur, and you've just got to make the distinctions between those that are lighter and darker. Predominantly what a lot of people do is they put on lighter values and then they come darker, 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 as you would do if you were working in a watercolor. You do a very, very similar thing here with a colored pencil. What I'm doing around the eye is working on the eye itself, because essentially without that being right, then there really isn't a great painting to be had, if all honesty, because this is what's going to carry the picture. The fur is just the supporting act to this beautiful eye. And so I'm paying a lot of attention. I'm burnishing the color in here, pressing a lot harder to get that distinctive depth to the color. But all the others have been fairly softly put on, shaded over, little glazes over one color over another, slowly building the depth of color to where I want it to be. And adding the next section, there's a little bit of skin there around the tear duct, starting to show those forms and develop those forms. But I keep coming back to the eye. I'm now putting some oranges as well as greens, so I'm running between cool greens and really hot oranges and light buffs, just to give that eye its beautiful color. I did use a very pale yellow in the center. It doesn't look obviously so in this picture, but that's what I was doing. I actually did that. Now I'm using solvent. The solvent I choose is the one that is called Zest-It. Now Zest-It is a solvent, but it's probably one of the nicer ones to, if you're going to use one, to be used. And I use it exclusively in my oil painting, and it makes for a great solvent here. But what you must always remember is, don't try and do solvent over too few layers of colored pencil. It really won't have a great effect. And because I'd worked a lot around the edges with all those layers, it gave me enough depth of layers to go in there with the solvent and just even it out. It's much better to put solvent on and to gain a flatter area or a nicer smooth area and lose the pattern in the paper or any shape in the paper. And it's just much easier to do that than it is to keep layer and layer and layer and embossing and sort of killing the shape of the paper. Actually, what you're doing is you're pressing down the hills into the valleys, as it were, and you're not helping the situation if you want to put more in. So doing solvent really is a nice way of getting the same effect as burnishing, but without destroying the structure of the paper. And therefore, once it's dry, you can go back in. And you've noticed that I haven't actually done anything on the eye itself. I've worked all the fur and started to put some of the structure in the fur all the way around the eye, because I know I've really got to wait for that eye to dry out properly before I go back in there with any colored pencil. So that's why there is such a gap there. But I will get back to it, and I will get back onto the eye itself. But while I'm doing that, I'm using some mid grays and some lovely pinky colors to start suggesting all the fur structure. And there are lights and there are darks, of course there are, but I'm slowly building. I'm slowly looking at the way the fur goes up and over, and this really is important. When I say up and over, I'm talking about the the direction of the fur. And I don't just mean the direction of the fur, I also mean the length of the fur too. When you look at a fur coming out of the eye, it comes around where the skin stops, the start of the fur, and it then goes over and down just underneath the eye or on the brow. It comes out and lays along and then rolls over, and it goes up into the shapes that you can see me doing now. Each of those are directional ways that the fur will be going. Now on top of that, you can suddenly start to look at things like the cheekbone underneath the eye, and you start to see the way the fur goes down and comes up over the cheekbone itself and rolls down. So you get a situation where the hair starts to foreshorten ever so slightly, but becomes shorter to see, and then it rolls over. And if you observe all this when you create your animal, and I'm just saying any animal, we just happen to be doing a cat and a cat's eye, but if you look at certainly around this area where I'm starting to do now, and I'm trying to look and see where the cheekbone would be and the way that the fur lays and how much of it I can actually see, because it does have a great bearing on the length of pencil stroke that I make. Here I'm coming around now with a really dark accent, and I felt that it went on so easy. I felt that the solvent wasn't quite dry, and it gave me a very, very soft edge to the pencil, and that was really delightful because it was a very, very solid mark. And I'm looking now at all those lovely details in the iris itself, checking out the warms and the cools, adding warm tones over green tones over warm tones, but varying those greens, varying those warms, so that's all very different. Coming in with a bit of umber or a bit of brown now, just to start to turn the eye away as it goes into the socket, because don't forget the eye is merely an orb or a ball, and it's spherical, and as it goes into the skin, of course, it does go away from the light and creates deeper and deeper shadow. And that's really what all this is about. It's an exercise in painting light and shadows and shapes. And now I'm painting in the little window that is behind me when I took the picture of Misty on our bed. I think it's a couple of years ago now, but she's got the window reflected in her eye that's behind, and I wanted to capture that because there are these pictures within eyes, there are these things that are reflected back to us, and it's beautiful. Now the light was intense, that's why her pupil is so contracted, and that's why that's a little bit haunting in a way. That's that really piercing sort of pupil, which, yeah, it's there, and it happens that way in intense light. It's the way that they will stop the light entering in, and they can constrict their pupil to such a degree. I mean, even ours will go very small in piercing light, and of course when it relaxes it becomes the more typical cat-like shape that we often see and we admire and love. And yeah, I'm not going to get all gushy over this, but I just wanted to sort of start looking at the reasons why this is so detailed, because you are pitting yourself all the time against all the subtleties within that iris, and they are little tweaks. And even now I'm sort of looking at it, and I'm going back in and I'm looking at the photo, and I'm going back to the drawing, I'm making little changes, deepening this and adding something there, and almost to the end of this drawing I was doing that, because I think that you start creating you develop an awareness of what you're doing. You make such a study of your subject that you start to see more and more things. And it's one good reason why some people do many studies of something, because every time they do a study of something they actually learn something new about that subject. Now for me, I've got to be honest, coloured pencils are fairly new media for me to get involved with. I've had a small set, as I think I said in one of my other videos, for many years. Never really tried them, but once I did try them, I think one of the first ones I did was a waxwing bird and maybe a robin more recently. And I love, in fact the robin is as a YouTube video, so you can actually see that, and I put a link to that in one corner of this video so you can see it. But I just, I know there are many people out there that do an extremely competent job of doing colour pencils. And I did wonder myself, should I get involved with doing them? But having got that one or two done with that small set, I just got hooked. And I actually went out and bought a couple of big sets. And I felt that I was really going to go to town with them and give them, I was really just going to get involved with them. And I loved it. And I do not regret it. I've done a couple more since, and I continue. And this, as I said, was a two evening stream to my patrons, and it was a 4-hour long draw, and we had a lot of fun doing it, or at least I hope they did. I'm sure they did. Each of them said they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it, and I felt that, as I said right at the beginning of this video, that it would really be nice to sort of share it with the wider audience, albeit not a 4-hour version. And this is still pretty long at sort of 30 minutes or thereabouts. And I felt that I have speeded it up about 400% or four times faster than normal. And I have had to make a lot of edits out of it. So I do hope that there is enough of it here that you've got something from it and enjoying the process, as I enjoyed it. And I find that colour pencils, since I've got involved with them, are very therapeutic. And I did say also that you are often sort of pitting yourself in a way against what you see to draw. When you're doing in oils, you can be very detailed. Watercolour, you can be very detailed. Same with pastels and acrylics, of course. But the thing is that those, you have the options to be very loose. I find that colour pencils, because they're a very pointy instrument in a sense, give you the luxury of sitting back and carefully planning and detailing images. And sort of once you learn the understand the way to apply them, then I think it's a case that you start pitting yourself against all these beautiful subjects that you can get involved with. I mean, I got to be honest and say that I've done a few tiger's eyes for demonstrations in oils and in watercolour, but I really didn't think that I'd sit down and start doing colour pencils just of a cat's eye. But here I am doing a cat's eye, and I absolutely enjoyed every bit of it. I really did, and I really can't wait to do some more. Now, on that note, there is a comment section underneath this video, and if you do or happen to have enjoyed this and want to see some more of this sort of thing from me in the future, then just put a comment in the bottom and tell me that. Tell me that you've enjoyed it, if you have, and tell me that you would like me to do some more colour pencil. I hope the response is really good, because I want to do some more. And I mean, it's not worth it if you don't like what I'm doing, but hopefully you do. And whilst you're sort of commenting there, then why don't you tell me, or at least suggest to me, some of the things you'd like to see me draw, whether it be a horse or a dog or a cat, an eye. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be an African animal, it could be, I don't know, the war's your oyster. I'm giving you a chance now to sort of suggest to me some of the subject matter that you'd like to see me do and have fun with. And I will try my very best over the next weeks and months to accommodate as many of those suggestions that come in. So yeah, feel free to add your comments and your suggestions, and I will read them all and thank each and every one of you for taking the trouble to do that. So we're really marching on with this now, and I think, if memory serves me, this would be almost certainly the second week. We've done, I pretty much only did the eye on week 1, and this section of the video is firmly into the second week, where I'd really started developing the hairs. What I wanted to say about the hair is, in addition to all that I said at the beginning, is that I left a lot of white space around the hairs, because I think that you can very quickly sort of put a colour on as a general shade, as it were, shading over a whole of an area, and you could quite easily lose some of the dynamic that the white paper can offer. Much in the same way as when you're doing a watercolour, you can actually have
wonderful dynamics by using the white paper provided for you. And we often say in watercolor that the white paper is the whitest or the lightest part of your whole thing. You can't get any lighter than that. Doesn't matter what you do. So you have to use that white paper in watercolor, and you have to preserve it if you want beautiful lights or highlights to show through. Of course, yes, you can use body colors and other things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just taking a general view. In the same way with colored pencil, you have, if you're using, of course, white paper, it's a different argument if you're using a colored paper. But if you're using primarily white paper, or if you're using maybe the Fabriano Artistico Extra White, the hot pressed, beautiful white paper, and it's a lovely surface and my second favorite so far. But if you're using those, you have this beautiful thing about using or leaving some of the white paper showing through. Now you've seen that all my flicks of the fur, I have not just shaded whole areas. I have been quite particular in leaving many white bits there, so it's a lot of little taps, lots of little drags of the pencil to create little gaps of white showing through. Some of them over the period have been filled out and lost, but many of them still exist, and they do add to the darks and the midtones to allow you to have the density of fur that you really need to capture this cat and to capture the life and the realism in the fur. And I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to make something look very, very real from a photographic reference when we're creating something in colored pencil. Now, I have a big argument about that because the old adage, if you want it too photographic, take a photograph and mount that. Well, yes and no. A photograph is never as beautiful as a piece of art like this. The exacting marks that you can make with a pencil or a paintbrush or anything like that really can overwhelm any photographic material that you would try and put it in its place. And I really firmly believe that. So you can have real, you can have hyper real, you can have anything you like. Give it whatever label you want. The desired effect of this to have something that looks like the cat's eye and all the fur around it, and that's what I tried to achieve with this one. So yeah, a little rant over. It's not a rant, it's just something that sort of sits with me, that I sort of feel when I hear people talk about, if you're going to make it photographic, put a photo on the wall. And to a point, yes, but it's a very weak argument. I think that you can do so much with materials like this to create something that is absolutely real and absolutely stunning, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. And I think all of us, doesn't matter how we are or how far down the road we are with our artistic endeavors or indeed our artistic careers, I think that at the end of the day, it's the pursuit of that perfection that we all seek. Doesn't matter whether we started 25, 30 years ago or more years than I can remember or want to care to remember, or whether we started last week. It doesn't matter. We all seek the same end product, something that we can feel that we want to be proud of, and something that reflects that which we've been trying to paint or copy or whatever. And I think I really feel that that's the same for everybody. I've gone off the board a little bit, and hopefully you're still getting something from this drawing. Sort of jumping back into where I'm leaving the white fur. Now, that part that I was just doing on the left-hand side is predominantly going around to a very light piece of white on her nose. And so in trying to suggest, I didn't want to leave just white paper. What I wanted to do is suggest a few very, very pale colours that are sort of suggesting the shadowy sections of some of those hairs as they go down in towards the eye and the tear duct. Now, the two prominent things I've done is I've used what I call yin yang. I've used the warm and cool colours. I've used lots of greys and sort of grey blues to create some of the greyer parts of her fur. But I've also gone over it, as I'm doing here, with pinks and burgundies and lovely maroon colours, just to excite those blue greys and give them extra depth and extra warmth as I've gone through it. And I've done that really right from the start. I've gone through all these colors and I've layered in bits of pink, bits of warmth and peachy colors, and I've also gone in with blues and grays and darks and Prussian blue, and then I've gone back into indigos. As I say, you can, most of the pencils you'll see the color of them as I'm using them throughout this video, so you can actually sort of get close to those with the list of colors that I've used. I gotta say this, guys, that when I looked at the desk at the end of all of this, most of my big set of Polychromos in use were out on the desk, so you'll see it's a big long list if you look at it, and I do hope that you can make something of that list. But we're coming into the final part of this now, and I'm sort of just crossing I's. Is it crossing I's? Crossing T's, dotting I's, and just checking for those little effects of warmth and cool that really do need just a bit more attention. And it is that attention to detail that will bring a picture like this over the finish line to a successful conclusion, and one that you really have enjoyed to do. I know I've enjoyed this one. It's been a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun when I was streaming it to my patrons over the last couple of weeks, and I actually have had a lot more fun as well, reliving it in a sense by doing the edit for you guys on YouTube to enjoy. And to that end, I've sort of seen it again, and I saw it from a fresh perspective, to be quite honest with you, because I got very close to it when I was actually doing it, and actually seeing it being painted now for the first time just on a film was, yeah, it's really good, and I have enjoyed it. Anyway, I'm digressing, I'm rambling, and I do hope that you'll take from this and get something from it. I also hope that you'll give me some comments in the comment section below and tell me some suggestions, and indeed if you want me to do some more colour pencil work, that'd be a delight. So in the meantime, guys, have a go and get with it, stay safe and have a lot of fun with this. Talk to you all soon, see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now.